every, I think, what,
First and third.
third Tuesday of
The same weeks as
Duck Soup.
Duck Soup.
Yes. So.
Because on the other nights, DJ Rowe is in Concord.
Yes, Nika Lounge. DJ in the Nika Lounge. You'll find me, Anna, Age, once in a while Shantae, which I think you'll see her again maybe next time. We'll see.
Yeah.
So you'll see us all there, kicking it, doing our thing. That's a little hangout spot.
Yep. Even though I really hope, there's some cool spots opening up in Vallejo.
Yes, you gotta hook me up, man.
I will. I was
see
going
what's happening, man.
Yeah.
It seems like for a while it was getting dry, and then now it seems like people are starting to come back. So
yeah, there is a lot going on in our little town. There's a couple really cool spots.
Yes.
So that is where we will be doing things.
Nice.
Yes. So another place that we talk about is South Sudan, and there's also been a civil war there. And then South Sudan is the newest country in the world. They became a country in 2011 and started civil war in 2013. And I saw something very moving. The warring parties went to see the Pope, and the Pope, Pope Francis, otherwise known as PF, that's what I call him. And so it was Idris Elba. It was Riek Machar and Idris something. I forget the name of the president of South Sudan. Riek Machar was the vice president who split off and started a civil war. So Pope Francis got down on his knees and kissed their feet for peace. It was really something. I guess he has a thing where he washes people's feet, like he washes beggars' feet, and he washes the feet of other people officials that come to see him. But he's never kissed anyone's feet before, and he's an old guy. And before that, he was speaking in Spanish, either Spanish or Italian, I'm not sure which, probably Spanish, because that's what he speaks, and just begging them to make peace. And then they looked kind of embarrassed because he had he had like an assistant that would walk over with him, and he'd like help him get down and like kiss their feet, and like each guy then would like help him get up.
Wow.
And and Rebecca Garang was also there, and she is the widow of John Garang, who was one of the early major figures in South Sudan's liberation. And he died in a helicopter accident, as rebels and liberators tend to do. So she is involved in the new South Sudan also, and she got her feet kissed too. So let's hope that this does some good. So some other things that have been happening was, we've talked about Uganda, and Uganda's interesting because one of the major political figures is a rapper, Bobi Wine, known as the ghetto president. We have played his music here, and he was tortured and left the country and then came back, and he is doing okay, last I heard. Nobody's like throwing him in jail or anything. And Uganda set a social media tax, and so people have stopped using social media. And they're another country with an ancient president. Yoweri Museveni is like 87 years old or something,
mm-hmm.
and they just amended the constitution so he can run for president again. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. But meanwhile, Uganda has offered to host Omar al-Bashir, the president of Sudan, who's now in jail. So that's kind of interesting. And they said that they're willing to do it because he's helped their country with peace. And I'm like, that he's wanted for war crimes. How has he helped your country? And Uganda accepts the international, is a signatory to the International Criminal Court, and so that's why some of their warlords have been tried at the International Criminal Court. And so if he goes to Uganda, that means he's subject to the International Criminal Court. He's wanted by them, but Sudan doesn't recognize them. So as long as he stays in Sudan, they can't get him. So I don't know if there's more behind the story, because I'm like, why would he? But who knows? I mean, maybe he feels like he could feel like he'd be safer in Uganda than in prison in the country that's deposing him. That's possible. And the entire government, the prime minister and cabinet of Mali in French-speaking Africa has stepped down. They have, they are a country that is troubled by Al Qaeda. Remember them?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's a real problem. They have Al Qaeda trying to terrorize and start Sharia law, and they have ethnic violence between tribes. So they're one of the most dangerous places in the world for UN peacekeepers. And okay, so we have been following the teenage girls that were thrown in jail for drawing a picture of the president in Burundi. So they've been released from jail but kicked out of school. Mm-hmm. So that's God. So, again, there's some fucking brave people out there. Speaking of brave people, something that happened today that we're going to try and untangle because it's something I know less about than I should, was the death of a journalist named Lyra McKee in Ireland. And there was a this is embarrassing because she was covering a demonstration in Northern Ireland. Okay, remember the Troubles? The rebellion, when Ireland was trying to break free from Great Britain. Mm-hmm. Okay, so there was all of that, and then because there's now the Republic of Ireland and Northern Ireland, and this is really embarrassing that I get this mixed up, but I think there's the Republic of Ireland, which is its own country, and then there's Northern Ireland, which is part of Great Britain. And this is in 1998, the Good Friday Agreement was signed, and that was something that Bill Clinton was involved with to make peace between the rebels that were fighting for independence from Great Britain. And so it's really interesting because people's experience of living in Ireland has been it was a real war zone, like not what you would expect necessarily in a country like that. So there has been a lot of demonstrations, and this woman named Lyra McKee is, if you want to look her up, she was 29 years old, and she was gay and public, so she was a real major figure in Ireland because she was talking about being a young gay person in a very Lyra, in a very Catholic place, and she talked about mental health and apparently there's real problems with mental health in her generation, and so it said they're called the post, the people that were either really young, around people that were, millennials, or people that were born in the 90s or weren't born yet in 1998. So older people would think, oh, you guys have it easy because you didn't live through the Troubles. But apparently they have real serious mental health problems. So that's something that Lyra McKee, did you find her?
Mm-hmm.
was writing about. And the idea is that growing up with that heritage of trauma is what has given them such mental health problems. And that's the same logic, or that behind some of the lawsuits from the descendants of Holocaust survivors, of Holocaust victims, that there's evidence that trauma is inherited.
She was like right in the middle of a war, kind of.
Well, basically, yeah.
Ugh. I don't know what to say on that one, man. That's hard.
Yeah. It's really, really sad. Apparently, he was just a brilliant journalist and was researching people who disappeared during the Troubles, and so it's really very sad. But I don't know. I mean, it's one of these things that I find kind of embarrassing, because it's the articles about it were saying, okay, there was a demonstration by Republicans. I'm like, well, who are they? It's not. I know what we mean by Republicans in the United States, but I don't know what it means in other countries. So, yeah, it's one of those things where, I don't know, man. I know more about countries in Africa than I do Great Britain, whatever. I mean, a lot of people in the United States know about Ireland because it's like a popular place to visit and all that. We have descendants. My grandfather was actually born in Ireland, which was weird. Ireland isn't really known for Jews, but apparently the story is, and the problem with my mother, she's dead now, was that she was very imaginative, and so you really couldn't tell sometimes if what she was saying was true or not. The story was, but the family was trying to get to America from, I don't know, like they ran out of money on the way to America and stopped in Ireland. I mean, I don't know what the fuck they were doing in Ireland, but that's kind of weird. I should be more interested in Ireland than I am. But anyway, that is just a tragedy, and it's Good Friday. It's really, so there's a lot of grief, and, it's just crazy. What is their problem? I mean, their government is not that bad. They can go out and, they are not under Sharia law like in Sudan. I mean, I believe in peaceful protest. So, yeah, so that's really sad. Do you ever hear anything about Ireland? Any associations?
No.
The Troubles?
No.
Bobby Sands?
You are the first one I've heard speak of Ireland in a long time now.
Really?
That I've heard of. I mean, it doesn't...
In the Name of the Father? What about...
Well, I know about you Catholics, but I don't really hear much about Ireland, per se. I don't ever hear too much about Ireland, to be honest with you. Until you just said that. Now I heard something.
Yeah.
And I've never heard the IRA for a while. I haven't heard about that in a while.
Well, yeah. Yeah. That's one of those things that's kind of interesting. The IRA is another group where, there was recently a scandal because one of the former members of the IRA, some of these guys lay down their arms and become part of the government. And Martin McGuinness, who is a Irish political leader, did that. And so he was honored in San Francisco, and there was a lot of anger about that because of his IRA past. So, but that's what happens. Some of these people join the government. And that's one of the things that's interesting about Ralph Bunche, one of the, who I will be talking more and more about. Ralph Bunche, one of the many things he did was negotiate peace in the Middle East in 1950. He was the first black person to win, African American, to win the Nobel Peace Prize, and he did it after the person who was doing it, Count Bernadotte. Isn't that a great name? Count Bernadotte. Count Folke Bernadotte. Count Bernadotte was Swedish and was head of the Swedish Red Cross and had rescued, negotiated rescues for 30,000 Jewish kids during the Holocaust. And he was assigned to work on Middle East peace. And by the United Nations, and this was in the late 1940s, and Ralph Bunche was like his second in command, and Count Bernadotte was assassinated by members of the Stern Gang, and so they were, and this was when the Jews were trying to get the state of Israel. They were trying to make their own state. They were trying to make the state of Israel and get the state away from Great Britain, which owned the territory at the time. And there are a lot of different ways to look at this. There's different interpretations by different. Because it wasn't really Great Britain's to give away in the first place, or it shouldn't have been, but that's how it was at that time. And so Count Bernadotte and Ralph Bunche were trying to figure out what to do, and the Stern Gang they're going around they were the violent arm of the Jewish resistance, assassinated Count Bernadotte. This guy that was had rescued all these Jews from the Holocaust, was just there trying to help. It was really, really awful. And so Ralph Bunche took over and made peace. And one of the members of the Stern Gang became part of the Israeli government. One of them, Yitzhak Shamir, and it was possible, the rumor is that he was the one that actually pulled the trigger for the assassination. I mean, they were all part of it, but somebody was like, okay, well, he was the one that pulled the trigger, was eventually the prime minister of Israel. And Ralph Bunche needed to work with these people all through the 1950s, these people that had killed his friend, his colleague, and he did it. And people that join the government, the idea is it's very hard to find good guys. And for example, in Sudan, there's people out protesting in the streets, and then there's the people that, we already know we're already suspicious about the army putting Omar al-Bashir aside, but the people leading the revolutions, they have their own goals.
Right.
A lot of them aren't always the greatest people either.
Right.
So, a lot of them strike deals, or they just want power for themselves, and so. There was the Arab Spring, and a lot of those countries are, Tunisia has become a successful democracy, but none of the rest of the countries have. And it's just really, really sad and really infuriating. And, you would think, another thing, that's happening that my dad was talking with me about is in Russia, there is now, my dad was telling me that now in Russia, people are nostalgic about Stalin. Okay. nobody was. These are all people who were not alive under Stalin, under the communist regime. I mean,
So why are they nostalgic about it?
Okay, what I think, it's the same thing. Okay, you know all the you know how there's a lot of young Make America Great Again people.
Mm-hmm.
These people that think everything was so great back when Reagan was president, they weren't born back then.
Right.
Exactly. They weren't born. They were really young. I think it's the same thing. I think the government. Putin has encouraged this. I think there's people that try and get these ideas out there to get more sympathy for their policies. You know, like, oh yeah, things were just so great under Stalin. Too bad we don't know what happened to Uncle Ivan, since he was like just taken away and like I mean, there was just tons of human rights abuses under the communist regime. People couldn't do what they wanted to do. They didn't have freedom, and now people are nostalgic about it. The same way people, I mean, when they like now some of the MAGA people, especially, and this is a millennial thing too, like, well, oh blah blah, you know, it used to be that middle class people could own homes. Like, not when I was young. Or like, really, like when I was, I don't know, like, okay, well, it used to be that you could like keep a family going with one income. Like, not when I was young, not like normal people. So, you know, it's like they are thinking back to the 50s. I don't know. So yeah, that is my theory, that the people that are nostalgic about Stalin are kind of the same as like the MAGA hats, because that's my, yeah. I mean, it is the conversation that I would have with them. Like, okay, make America great again. Like, when? Like, what do you think? When do you think America was better, or what is it that you? That would be my question for any of them. Like, what do you think has been taken away from you? What do you feel so fucking wronged about? That would be the question. You know, like, oh, you're not, okay, last conversation we had was about post Me Too and all of that. Okay, you were telling me that guys are like afraid to like hit on women now.
Yeah, well, they still do it, but it's a difference now. It's like, you know what I'm saying? A lot of guys I know, they're kind of like, I can't explain it, dude. It's not the same. They're not scared. All of them are scared, but it's a lot different than what it would have been. Like, you know what I'm saying? They're, you know, with all the stuff going on with, of course, Bill Cosby again. You know, all the stuff going on with who else was it? Bill Cosby. You know, everybody's getting in trouble for all the little things they're getting in trouble for.
That wasn't exactly a little thing.
Well, I mean, it wasn't little, but
I mean, what
I'm just saying is, you know, you just gotta watch out.
So are they
now.
just okay? So they feel like they can't sexually harass people, or
it's not sexually harassing people getting at somebody, but I'm just saying, like,
like
you just don't know. You might get a girl that maybe she might get drunk, maybe you might drink with her, maybe you think she wants whatever you think she wants, and maybe she doesn't want it. Maybe she may wake up and say, I didn't want it, but acting like she wanted it.
Maybe she may wake up.
No, she's drunk. I'm being honest like that. I mean,
no, I know, but it's like, well, it would seem.
There's some girls that are just like that. I know,
but it would seem to be
tipsy.
Yeah, but if somebody is like passed out, you shouldn't be having sex with them.
I wouldn't. I'm not the person I wouldn't, but I'm just saying.
So good.
There's guys that are like that.
Good. Okay, so if it makes them think that they should not have sex that they shouldn't like fuck somebody that's passed out, that's good. Yeah. That's a good thing. You know, I mean, if this makes more
like,
men.
Remember that movie? There was a movie a long time ago called Kids. I think it was called Kids. Mm-hmm. Do you see that movie?
I didn't. It was a long time ago.
You remember it though, right? With the skateboarder.
Yeah.
Do you remember what happened at the end?
No, because I didn't see it. It was
Well,
about like street kids, right?
Yeah, but they all like to do drugs and drink.
Yeah.
And so, well, the girl wound up having like HIV or something. There was a girl that had HIV. She didn't tell nobody.
Yeah.
But the group of kids like to do drugs and drink and have sex. So one of the dudes, even though she was drunk, and I think she kind of said she didn't want to, but it was weird. It was weird. They were both drunk. I mean, it was weird. Like I said, that's what I'm saying. Situations like that, to me, it's kind of like, why would you kick it with a bunch of dudes and be drunk and do that? And anyway,
but she said she didn't want to.
She did. Why she really didn't want to is because she had HIV.
Well, yeah.
It wasn't necessarily that she didn't want to, but she had HIV. But dude had sex with her anyway, and she just they were used to this kind of stuff. This is how their clique was. But she had HIV, and I'm just saying. See, she was like that.
But she said she didn't want to do it.
But I can't explain it. But if you watch the movie, you would understand. They were like that.
I don't like movies like that.
It was weird. She wasn't mad at the fact that he had sex. She was mad.
Okay, so then she did want to do it.
She technically wanted to do it, but she didn't want to because she had HIV. And so dude still did it anyway because he's a dude, of course. But that's what I'm saying. It's like it's one of them midpoints that is distorted now. It's like, I wish sometimes people would just, if you really don't want, just say no. Just act stupid or something, you know?
Yeah, say back the fuck off from me right now.
Bam!
Yeah.
I'm leaving you alone, and that's it.
Oh,
you know what I'm saying?
Nobody fucks with me,
But some of these people...
No, when I was young, especially when I was young, when I was younger, I would get the fuck off me.
But that's different. That's,
now it's like,
you're making up presidents, but some of these people...
Yeah, now I don't need to do that so much anymore, but
And then some people are okay with it until they think about it later, then they're not so much okay with it.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, hopefully everybody will just learn to communicate more clearly. And I don't know, man. If some guy, to me, it's like, it's not that, like, okay, well, does she want to or doesn't she want to? To me, I don't think it's that much of a sacrifice to, like, be like, okay, I'm not going to, I do not think that's much.
Well, I agree with
how do you want to have sex with somebody that doesn't,
But that's the point, though. See, since the beginning of time, it's always been that hard to get type thing. Where a girl plays, she may like the guy, but she plays hard to get, so she doesn't seem easy.
Yeah.
So the guy will still keep trying, even though she says no. And so to me, that's where it gets distorted, because I think guys, sometimes they don't know the truth. And if you're like...
Well, I think they need to... I think if somebody says no, to me, that should be the fucking basic thing. If somebody says no...
Yeah, but...
Jeez.
Yeah, I know you used to hear what they used to say back in the day. No, sometimes
I know,
means
yes. But that's not true.
I know it's not true. You tell me no, I'm not doing it.
Other guys need to learn that too.
Well, people don't know that. I'm
that's,
just saying
that's what they need to learn. Okay, they need. And
there are still some girls that will say no, but really want it, but they're trying to play.
So then they can say that, like, okay, if they say no and
that's the part.
And the dude says okay, then they can say like, oh no, then okay, then if they change it to yes, and they can do whatever.
That's
okay,
the part that's messed up.
Hopefully, to me, it's a fucked up state of mind to like think it's like, come on, no means no, and so if that is. If guys are like worried, about whether or not somebody's saying that's they should be worried about that,
ladies, if you like a guy, don't play with him. Just tell him no and mean it. Don't lead him on like a kind of keep trying no. Be like, no, I don't. I'm not doing nothing.
Well, yeah.
And if you don't think you're going to do something to him, don't go up to his hotel room. Don't go into his house by yourself. Just don't do it. Be a lot simpler.
Yeah. Yeah. But, it's like, to me, it's like, look, to me, that's saying, I'm not going to go under the belief that like men can't control, that they're not capable of like controlling.
It's not necessarily a control issue. It's how men are. It's like it's been for the longest. It's been the dog chases the cat type thing. It's like you kind of depend. If the girl is a flirty no,
Yeah.
guys will just think, okay, she's playing hard to get. You've heard that before. Don't act
I
like
have,
you
but
haven't
well, of
heard
course
that.
I have, but I just don't think it's. I mean, I just don't think that's true. I think if somebody says no, you need to take them at their word.
And I agree, but
And other guys should agree with that too. You know, I mean,
I
can
agree,
like
but
be. You know, I mean, I still.
I've been in groups where there are girls that still say they like playing hard to get. Like, even if they like someone, they want a guy to really put forth an effort, so they'll say no and they'll play
Well,
these
putting
games.
forth an effort, that doesn't mean, you know, I mean, that doesn't mean physically attacking someone.
It doesn't necessarily mean physically attacking someone, but you can't lead people on into. I mean, would you tease a tiger or a lion with a steak, even though you know you're not going to give it exactly? It's just think of the same kind of concept. When you tease something into something, they think something's going to happen, so they're going to keep trying because they think something's going to happen. It's not necessarily that they're being perverted.
I don't condone.
But see,
either
I think
side.
you're a no person. You're a person when you say no, you mean it.
Oh yeah.
So there's a difference in you, but there are some people who say it, but they're doing it in a way like, I want to see how far he'll go.
Well,
I want him to do certain things, so I'm
people,
going to say
more
no.
people need to be like us. Okay.
Exactly. I'm a straightforward person. I'd rather someone tell me no.
Well, exactly.
And if you say no, I don't care if you're laughing again. I'm going to be like, okay.
Exactly.
It. But there's, like I said,
You know,
there
I
are
used to
people
go out with guys, and I didn't
that are
like
still
don't pull any shit
play with
like
people.
that.
There are people that play the game and.
Well, hopefully more people are learning not to do it. You know, and it's kind of like, okay, it's not about right or wrong. I mean, it's not about what people should, it's not about how things should be. It's about how things are.
Right.
And like, yeah, it's fucked up, you know, it's fucked up if like, you know, yeah, it's fucked up. I mean,
I don't know. Me personally, if I was a girl, if I don't like somebody, I'm not going to go to a hotel room with you. It's just like that simple. It's not even going to go that high.
Yeah.
I'll do that with even the girls now. If I don't like, I'm not going to go to a hotel. It's no.
Yeah, you'd think.
But I'm not going to go, even though I know I don't like them. I'm not going to go just to go either, because I'm smart enough to know I'm being invited for a certain reason.
Right.
Why would someone invite you to a hotel? And I think a lot of that is gone. The common sense. You know what I'm saying? We do blame the guys a lot, but I think a lot of these girls, the common sense in the game that they're playing.
Because if you do something wrong, you're going to get blamed, okay? I mean, it's sort of like if you, I don't know. I mean, it's sort of like, say I'm jaywalking and get hit by a car and injured. You know, I shouldn't have been jaywalking, but the driver's still liable.
True. And I agree with that, but I still am like one of the people that believe that if you're going into a certain situation, that things can possibly happen.
Yeah, but
It's just like the police, what they say.
well,
If you leave your stuff in your car and your car gets broken into and you tell them, well, I had my stuff in my car, well, you can't just tell a police officer, well, it's my stuff. They shouldn't have broken my car. The police officer's going to say, well, you shouldn't have left your stuff in your car.
Yeah, man, that was one of the things. I mean, I had my ex-girlfriend was like, you know, on drugs and stuff, and you know, she would like borrow my car, and she like burnt a you know, she burnt a hole in a seat with a cigarette, and I said something about it to people
Your new car, the one that you...
No, this was years ago.
Oh, okay.
No.
Ooh.
No, yeah, that was a mess, and no, this was back in, and yeah, and I said something about it to, you know, this mutual friend. He was just like, you shouldn't have let her borrow your car. I was like,
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So you see what I'm saying? How people think, and you knew that she was kind of messed up in the head.
Yeah.
You really shouldn't have let her use your car. And I mean, I understand it's messed up on her part.
Yeah.
But you knew something was wrong with her. Like, I could be friends with someone, and if I know they got a drug problem, and they're going, dude, I'm sorry, you ain't using my car. I mean, it's just...
I should.
It's not nothing against you.
I mean, my whole you know, I mean, my thing, I'd like let her.
You said exactly what I'm trying to tell you. It's kind of like one of them situations where I mean, what am I gonna say? You're going to a hotel with a guy. I know what the guy wants to do. We all know what to do. But how did you not realize this? what else is there to do at a hotel?
Yeah, but people, hopefully people can learn, hopefully everybody can
But
learn.
I'm like you. I'm totally like, no. Someone says no, it means no. I'm not into the. No, just.
Yeah.
I want you to try harder. No.
Yeah,
you say
I've
no,
never been,
that's,
I've never
you
been
know,
like
I
that.
mean it, you mean it, so I'm done. So.
Yes. So, so this was interesting. Because now it's so funny because the language is, my dad said something about how somebody was a casualty of Me Too. Like, oh my God. And, my dad is the coolest, it's like, I have never heard my dad say anything disrespectful about women. And last week, so we had, I had lunch with him and his friend and his friends and their son, who's about my age, and his daughter. And she was talking about Taylor Swift. And I had forgotten about this, but Taylor Swift sued a radio host because she was taking a picture with them, and the guy put his hand under her skirt.
Mm-hmm.
And she sued him for $1. And she did it to make a point. Mm-hmm. That's not because I know people would have, and she wanted to make a point for her fans, and she went, and she did it for $1. She wasn't trying to get money. She wanted to make the point that that's not okay. Don't treat people like that.
But see, now I agree with that. See,
yeah.
She's in the radio. That's a different type of situation.
So what was cool was this 11-year-old girl was talking about it, and I was like, cool. It looks like, she made her point, right. And, she made the point, and, now this 11-year-old girl knows that's not okay. Because with somebody like that, I would just be like, fuck. Okay, that is pretty fucking brazen. She's like a world-famous star, and he's going to do that. So somebody like that, it's like, oh, my God. Imagine, women in the other women in the office and how he would have been treating them, That's why, for me, a lot of the time, the reason that I stand up, and I'll stand up and, speak out about something, because there's a whole lot of situations where I'm fine, I can get myself out of it, but I'll know that somebody else is going to be vulnerable. And so, so that was pretty cool. That was a nice little dose of 11-year-old girlhood for me.
Nice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she was a cutie.
That's good. That's good how she did that. She handled it in a way that was, instead of being like, oh my God, he tried to assault and kill me and, make it into something. She did that the right way. And I agree that it was his fault. He shouldn't even have done. I don't even know why he did that. But,
well, of course, that's fucking crazy. It's not okay.
He probably told one of his friends, you know what, I'm just going to do it. Just to do it.
No, he thought he could get away with it.
Yeah.
And my God, he's probably, if he's going to do that to her, I'm sure he, does it to every woman in his office.
When I would go to the clubs a long time ago, I remember a lot of dudes would do that. I had a friend that would do that.
Really?
Girls would walk by and he would touch their in the club.
God.
They didn't care, but he would, that's what
yeah.
they do.
Yeah.
So at that time, they didn't care. They didn't, like I said,
some of them cool did. They just don't know how to speak up for themselves. But but it was cool. She did it for her fans. She has a whole lot of girls that look up for her, and so she set that example. And so that's really good. And so that's the sort of thing that I hope makes a difference, and that because that's what this all should be about. That these cases that are really public, it's not about those people. It's about what the general public can learn from that.
Exactly.
That's the hope.
Exactly. I agree.
Yeah.
Play some music?
Yes. Okay, we'll be back.